Alien report was titled Holy Shit, Don't Let the Humans Out, HFY Sci-Fi Stories. The research station drifted in silence above the blue planet. It was large, old, and built for watching rather than fighting. Long windows faced the world below, showing white clouds, deep oceans, and wide lands filled with storms and green shapes. The station had observed many worlds before, but this one was different. Even from orbit, the planet felt restless. Riel sat alone in the archive chamber. The room was cold and dim, filled with floating data panels and slow humming lights. Riel was not a soldier or a scientist of high rank. He was an analyst, trained to sort old records, clean corrupted files, and close projects that no longer mattered. This task was supposed to be simple. The Human Observation Project had been marked complete decades ago, yet the archive system had refused to close it. Riel frowned as another warning light appeared. The file did not respond to standard commands. It demanded higher clearance, then ignored it. That alone was strange. Old projects were usually locked, not active. Curious and uneasy, Riel pulled the file closer and read its outer label. Alien observation record. Restricted. Emergency status. Below that was a title written not in formal code, but in raw shared language. It felt rushed, almost emotional. Holy shit, don't let the humans out. Riel stared at the words. Reports were never titled like that. Titles were calm and exact. This one felt like a shout frozen in time. His first thought was that it was a mistake or a joke left behind by careless staff. His second thought was worse. The system itself had preserved the title, untouched. He hesitated before opening it. A quiet voice in his mind warned him to stop and report the error. Another voice pushed him forward. Riel had seen many strange things in the archives, but never fear, written so clearly. The first page loaded slowly. Instead of charts and data, it began with a short statement. If you are reading this, the containment decision has already failed once. Riel felt a tightness in his chest. He checked the author line. The name belonged to a senior officer who had died during the station incident many cycles ago. The official record claimed it was an accident caused by pressure loss. This report suggested otherwise. Riel continued reading. The early human studies followed standard procedure. The species was detected at a low technology level. They had limited space travel, no faster than light capability, and constant internal conflict. Initial projections rated them as manageable and non-threatening. Physical strength below average. Short lifespan. High emotional response. The text paused there, then continued with a new tone. Those projections were wrong. Riel swallowed. He scrolled down. The observers had expected fear and submission. Instead, the humans reacted with confusion first, then curiosity. When placed in controlled environments, they tested limits without being told to do so. They touched walls, damaged tools, and watched guards with focused attention. Several observers reported discomfort during eye contact. Riel leaned back slightly. Many species reacted badly to captivity, but this sounded different. There was no mention of panic or begging. The next section described the first live containment test. A small group of humans had been taken quietly from their planet. Their memories were partially blocked. The goal was to study stress response and adaptability. Riel noticed the language becoming less formal with each paragraph. Within one cycle, the humans had mapped the room. Within two, they had learned guard patterns. They shared information without clear signals. When one human was injured, the others adjusted behavior to protect that individual, even when it reduced their own access to food. That caught Riel's attention. Most species prioritized survival above all else. Cooperation often broke under pressure. Here, it seemed to strengthen. A warning icon flashed on Riel's screen. He ignored it. The report moved on to personal notes. Observer logs show increased stress among staff. Humans ask questions even when answers are not given. Silence does not discourage them. It appears to challenge them. Riel felt a chill. He glanced at the chamber door, half expecting someone to enter and stop him. No one came. The next page included a video still. A human stood inside a containment room. It looked small and fragile compared to the guards. Yet, the posture was straight, the eyes alert. The human was smiling. Riel did not like the smile. It did not look friendly. It looked thoughtful. The text beneath the image read, "At this stage, we believed control was absolute. We were wrong." Riel scrolled faster now, drawn in despite himself. Minor system disruptions began shortly after. At first, they were blamed on aging station equipment. Doors lagged. Lights flickered. Sensors lost signal for seconds at a time. No direct cause was found. Then came the first incident. The report slowed again, as if the author had struggled to write what followed. During a routine transfer, One human was unrestrained for a brief moment due to a synchronization error. The human did not flee. Instead, it moved toward the control interface and placed its hand against the surface. The panel was not designed for that species. It still responded. Real's eyes widened. The human triggered a localized lockdown. 2 guards were injured in the confusion. No fatalities occurred, but containment integrity was compromised for the first time. Real felt his breathing change. This was no accident. The human had understood something about the system in seconds. The report included an internal debate. Some officials argued the incident proved the need for harsher control. Others insisted it was a rare anomaly. The project continued. Ryle reached the end of the first section. He expected data charts or conclusions. Instead, there was a single line. They are learning faster than we can measure. Before Real could continue, the archive lights shifted color. A system message appeared. Unauthorized access detected. Real froze. His hands hovered above the interface. He had known this moment would come. The station monitored everything. A calm voice echoed through the chamber. Analyst Real. Nature activity. It was the station commander. Real straightened and tried to keep his voice steady. I was assigned to close inactive observation files. This record resisted deletion. I began review to identify the error. There was a pause. Long enough to feel heavy. That file is sealed, the commander said. You are not authorized to read it. Real hesitated. He should have stopped. He should have apologized and closed the interface. Instead, the words left his mouth before he could stop them. Why is it still active? Another pause. Delete the file and return to your quarters, the commander replied. Ryle looked at the screen. The delete command was flashing again, waiting. His hand moved toward it. The system rejected the command. Real stared as an error message appeared. Deletion denied. Priority override locked. The chamber fell silent. The commander spoke again. Quieter now. Leave the chamber. Real did not move. His eyes remained on the report title. Fear was not something often admitted in official records. Yet here it was, preserved against all attempts to erase it. Commander, Real said carefully, this file cannot be deleted. Silence answered him. After several long seconds, the commander finally spoke. Then close it. The connection cut. Real exhaled slowly. His hands trembled. He tried to close the file. It stayed open. New text appeared at the bottom of the page, text that Real was certain had not been there before. If you are still watching them, you have already made the wrong choice. Real stepped back from the interface. His mind raced. Files did not update themselves after being sealed. Dead officers did not add new notes. Outside the chamber window, the blue planet turned slowly. Lightning flashed across a distant ocean. Real understood then that this was not just an old report. It was a warning that was still waiting to be heard. And somewhere below, on that restless world, the humans continued to live their lives, unaware that an entire station watched them with growing fear. The archive lights dimmed as if the station itself were uneasy. Real did not close the file. He kept reading. The humans arrived on the test world in a transport chamber. Their restraints were minimal. They had no memory of their past conflicts, only basic skills and instincts. The observers believed this would make them easier to study. What they did not know was that humans could learn faster than any alien species they had previously studied. Tovan, the behavioral officer, watched from a control platform. He was new, young, and eager to prove himself. He had studied species in laboratories and on colonies, but never anything like this. The humans moved slowly at first, looking around with wide eyes. Some touched walls, some examined equipment without understanding it. One human crouched and picked up a piece of debris, rolling it in their hands. It was a simple object, yet the humans seemed to understand its shape and weight instantly. Tovan noticed something that made him uneasy. The humans looked at each other and exchanged gestures, small nods, eye movements, and subtle changes in posture. There was no shared language, yet they communicated perfectly. Guards nearby did not understand. The humans moved as a group, acting like they were part of one mind. The first trial began. Humans were placed in a room designed to challenge their survival. Tools were broken or missing. Food was limited. The room had artificial hazards, obstacles, small traps, and sudden lights to test reactions. Observers expected panic and rapid collapse. They expected screaming and failure. Instead, the humans paused, observed, and began testing. One human used a piece of broken metal to block a hazard. Another created a small lever system from debris to lift a door lock slightly. The humans were solving problems in ways Tavan had never seen before. He leaned closer to the control panel, whispering to himself, "The humans are not acting as we predicted. They are thinking beyond the limits we set. The observers documented everything carefully. Each success or failure was recorded. But by the third cycle, Tovin realized they were learning patterns. They could anticipate guard movement, predict environmental changes, and adapt in ways that seemed almost impossible. One human even hid quietly in a shadow until a robot drone passed, then moved silently to collect a dropped tool. When the observers noticed the human was already back in place, Tovin tried to explain to the head of the project, but the reply was calm, almost detached. It is expected for new species to learn, they said. But Tovin knew this was different. These humans were observing, thinking, and predicting, not through instinct alone, but through reasoning. Another test involved creating a simulated threat. A predator drone moved slowly toward the humans, designed to test fear and reaction. Other species ran, froze, or attacked randomly. The humans did something unexpected. They did not flee. They did not panic. Instead, they moved together, carefully positioning themselves in a formation that gave each member the best chance to avoid harm. When one human was grazed by the drone, the others shielded the injured one, even though it meant exposure to risk. Tovin could not hide his astonishment. Most species prioritized their own survival. Humans were prioritizing each other. Days passed, and patterns became clear. The humans were learning from every small action of the observers and guards. They could take risks, but not foolishly. They experimented, adapted, and improved. Tovin watched one human use broken equipment to create a small bridge over a hazard. The human balanced carefully, testing the structure, adjusting, and finally allowing others to cross safely. Tovin realized that the human was not only thinking about survival, but about cooperation and planning. In one incident, a minor system glitch occurred. A door closed unexpectedly, separating the human from the others. The observers expected panic. Instead, the human found another way. Using broken parts of the environment, the human managed to climb over the barrier, reuniting with the group without assistance. It was a simple act, yet it demonstrated planning, adaptation, and resilience. Some guards whispered that these humans were dangerous, but Tovin dismissed it as fear. Still, he could not shake the feeling that something about the humans was wrong, or at least beyond his understanding. Their ability to communicate without words, to anticipate events, and to protect each other made them unpredictable. One evening, the observers ran a social test. Humans were given access to a simple map of the area. They could explore freely for a short period. Tovin monitored their movement carefully. What he saw shocked him. The humans split into groups, moved in patterns that covered the area efficiently, and shared information through gestures and sounds. When they encountered a hazard, the first human to see it silently signaled others. The group adapted instantly. It was organized chaos, controlled and precise. By the third day, Tovin noticed another trait. The humans seemed to thrive on challenge. When obstacles were made more difficult, their performance improved. When the environment was harsh, they became more alert, more cautious, yet bolder. The more the observers tried to predict failure, the more the humans adapted and overcame. The report included detailed notes from Tovin's observations. The humans are not responding to fear. They are not responding to coercion. They respond to opportunity and challenge. Cooperation is instinctive. Strategy emerges quickly. Even when they appear weak, they have the potential for extraordinary outcomes. Tovin read the lines again, a knot forming in his stomach. Other species had weaknesses. Humans did not show the same predictable weaknesses. They were unpredictable, adaptable, and aware. There was a sense of focus in them that made observation almost impossible. They learned from mistakes, adapted strategies, and taught each other silently. A small incident marked a turning point. One human fell into a pit that observers believed would trap them for hours. Instead, the human analyzed the pit, found a small ledge, and climbed out with minimal effort. Another human observed, learned the method, and followed. By the end of the day, all humans had mastered the pit, and some guards speculated they had never truly been trapped at all. Tovin became obsessed. He spent long hours reviewing footage, noting every human reaction, every small adaptation. The more he watched, the more he felt that the humans were aware of being watched. They moved differently when observed, tested boundaries, and responded to threats with precision. They were learning the observers' patterns. In one session, a human was injured. Observers expected panic or selfish behavior. Instead, the group adjusted. Some distracted the monitoring drones. Others created a shield around the injured one using debris. It was a simple but coordinated action. Tovin realized they were capable of understanding not just physical challenges, but social and strategic ones. The report recorded internal debates. Some officials argued that humans were manageable if studied carefully. Others warned that containment itself might teach humans skills faster than intended. Each time the humans faced a challenge, they grew stronger, smarter, and more unpredictable. The concern was no longer about immediate threat. It was about long-term potential. Tovan felt a growing sense of unease. If humans could learn so quickly, adapt so efficiently, and communicate without language, what would happen if they were ever exposed to larger challenges? He did not speak these fears aloud, but they weighed on him with every observation. The report included a chilling note from an earlier senior observer. Under pressure, humans do not break. They evolve. Tovan stared at the words, understanding for the first time that this was not a species that could be controlled easily. Their capacity for adaptation, cooperation, and strategy made them fundamentally different, and it was clear that the humans themselves did not yet realize the extent of their own potential. A final observation in the report made Tovan lean back in disbelief. One human, placed in isolation as a test, managed to manipulate environmental systems to communicate silently with the group outside. No one had taught them, yet the method worked. The humans were learning faster than the observers could measure, predicting patterns and exploiting them with subtlety. Tovan realized that the human strength lay not in size, speed, or technology, but in their mind, their awareness, and their ability to adapt together. They were not the weak species everyone had assumed. The report ended with a single stark line. "We are no longer observing. They are observing us." Tovan sat in silence, staring at the screen. The humans moved below, unaware of the fear they were inspiring. Each action, each small adaptation seemed to challenge the observer's assumptions. He understood now that the humans were dangerous, not because of aggression or weapons, but because they were alive in a way the observers could not predict or control. He looked at the chamber door, half expecting someone to enter and stop him from reading further. No one came. Outside, the test world rotated slowly under distant stars, lightning flashing across the oceans. The humans continued to move, explore, and adapt, completely unaware of the attention they had drawn. Tovan knew that once this cycle ended, the humans would return to their planet. And the question that haunted him was clear. What would happen when they faced the real universe? The report remained open on the screen. Its words left an impression deeper than any training or simulation. Humans were not predictable, and in the eyes of those who studied them, that unpredictability was terrifying. And somewhere in the quiet of the observation platform, Tovan realized that the humans' greatest weapon was already alive. Their mind, sharp, adaptable, and unstoppable. The station had not seen such a day in decades. A minor system failure occurred during routine operations. Nothing serious, according to official reports. Lights flickered, doors lagged, and the environmental controls shifted slightly, but the system quickly corrected itself. Officially, it was an accident. Unofficially, it was the first sign of what the report called the first containment failure. Varro, the security chief, reviewed the logs. He had decades of experience in monitoring containment systems and believed he had seen it all. Still, he could not explain how a single human had caused multiple errors in the controls, injured 2 guards, and yet remained unharmed. The human in question had been unrestrained for less than 4 minutes. It should have been impossible for them to act so quickly. Yet, according to surveillance, the human assessed the environment, learned guard patterns, and used broken panels to trigger a lockdown in one sector. When the observers arrived, the human had disappeared from the area and reappeared in a monitored section without alerting the guards further. Varro's stomach tightened as he reviewed the footage again. Other species might panic, freeze, or attempt escape, but humans were different. This human had done none of that. They had analyzed the situation, used available tools, and manipulated their environment with precision. It was as if the human understood the station's logic better than the engineers who built it. The report detailed the debate among the station staff. Some argued that the incident was luck, a fluke that would never repeat. Others, more cautious, warned that humans were learning too quickly and adapting in ways that could not be measured by their standard tests. No one had predicted such a response. The humans were not merely reacting. They were thinking. Varro could see that the humans had begun to anticipate patterns. Guards were assigned shifts and patrols, and humans adjusted their movement to avoid detection. When one human encountered a new obstacle, the rest of the group altered their behavior based on what they observed. It was a learning network, unspoken but highly effective. During another observation, humans were placed in a complex area filled with doors, locks, and hazards. Observers expected trial and error. What they witnessed instead was systematic problem-solving. One human approached a door that required a control code. Without touching a panel, the human observed guards entering the correct sequence earlier and reproduced it with perfect timing. Another human followed behind, watching the first's actions and improving upon them, reducing the time to unlock the next barrier. The report recorded that these humans were capable of learning from mistakes, even their own, within seconds. They adapted strategies, communicated silently, and coordinated actions across multiple individuals. The observers' simulations had not accounted for such rapid adaptation. The humans were changing the rules by merely existing within the system. Varro realized that humans could not be contained in the same way as other species. Each time the station introduced new challenges, the humans overcame them faster than predicted. When one human was injured during a trial, the others reacted strategically, using tools and environment to protect and assist without alerting the observers immediately. It was coordination that exceeded any previous species' response. The report continued with an unsettling note. Humans do not require direct instructions to organize. They will observe, understand, and execute complex strategies independently. A containment does not teach them fear, it teaches them opportunity. When constrained, they do not break, they learn. A minor experiment was initiated to test group behavior. Humans were temporarily separated, monitored, and given no instructions. Observers expected confusion or panic. Instead, each human adapted. They learned the layout, identified threats, and found ways to signal each other silently. By the end of the cycle, all humans had reunited, achieving objectives faster than if they had been together from the start. Varro felt a cold tension. Other security chiefs might argue that humans were lucky or exceptional individually. Yet, the report showed that collective human behavior multiplied these advantages. Coordination, communication, and adaptability created an effect the observers could not predict or control. The report detailed one final test that pushed the humans beyond normal limits. A human was left alone in a newly constructed chamber with complex locks and monitoring systems. Observers expected hours or days before any meaningful action. Within minutes, the human had learned to manipulate components and open sections of the chamber previously thought inaccessible. What should have been an exercise in patience became a demonstration of ingenuity and rapid learning. Varro reviewed the results with unease. The senior author of the report added a chilling note. Humans seem to enjoy solving impossible challenges. Difficulty strengthens them. Obstacles do not break them, they improve them. Any attempts at control may serve only to make them more capable. Communication among humans also became a growing concern. Even without shared language, humans began signaling each other in subtle ways. Guards and observers often missed these signals because they were silent, small gestures and glances that conveyed strategy, danger, or opportunity. The human group could coordinate with speed and precision far beyond what observers anticipated. Varro's personal notes in the report reflected his growing dread. Humans were unpredictable, adaptable, and capable of understanding systems without prior instruction. They learned from observation, calculated risk, and protected one another instinctively. Traditional containment methods were insufficient and increasingly dangerous. The report also recorded the internal conflict among staff. Some wanted to continue experiments, believing humans could be understood and controlled. Others advocated stricter containment measures, fearing the consequences of underestimating the humans. The debates were heated, but humans themselves were already beyond the level of simple observation. A notable entry described a brief encounter. A human approached a malfunctioning observation device and manipulated it to gain an advantage in its environment. The device had been designed to monitor and restrict, yet the human turned it to observe and influence the observers. This event caused panic among some staff. Even Varro felt unsettled, realizing that humans could exploit weaknesses in technology faster than they could respond. The report concluded the section with a stark warning. Humans do not merely adapt. They learn, predict, and strategize. They observe patterns, anticipate challenges, and coordinate silently. Their intelligence, combined with social cooperation, makes them uncontrollable in conventional terms. Any containment system can be studied, understood, and ultimately circumvented by them. Varro leaned back from the console, heart pounding. He stared at the footage of humans moving through the test areas, calm, alert, and precise. They had no weapons. They had no technology beyond the environment around them. Yet in every interaction, they had gained knowledge, applied it strategically, and improved their situation. He understood why previous reports had emphasized caution. The human's strength was not in physical power or aggression. It was in their mind, their capacity to learn, adapt, and cooperate under pressure. Each challenge faced made them more capable, more unpredictable, and more dangerous. Varro's final observation was a reflection of fear and respect. Humans had shown in mere minutes the capacity to overcome containment protocols, anticipate observer behavior, and manipulate their environment with intelligence far beyond expectation. What was considered a minor system failure by official logs had revealed an entirely new level of threat. The humans continued their actions quietly, almost playfully, unaware of the anxiety they inspired in their watchers. They moved through the chambers, experimented with obstacles, and tested limits. With every small success, their confidence grew. With every failure, they learned and adjusted. Varro knew that the station had underestimated them from the start. The first containment failure was not a mistake. It was proof that humans could not be controlled in the way any other species could. Their adaptability, intelligence, and social cohesion made them unique, a species that changed the rules simply by existing within them. The report ended with a note that made Varro pause. Humans learn from the environment, from each other, and from observation. Control measures may provide only temporary delay. Long-term prediction of human behavior is impossible. The cautionary conclusion was clear: humans are not weak, and they are not to be underestimated. Varro stared out at the planet below. The humans' homeworld was peaceful now, unaware of the attention it had drawn. But the observers knew better. Humans had proven that they could survive, adapt, and grow stronger under pressure. The report implied a silent question. If this was what humans could do in a controlled environment, what would they achieve when free? The station remained tense. Lights flickered in response to minor errors, but the humans were already learning. Even as the observers debated containment strategies, the humans had advanced beyond immediate understanding. Their minds were sharp, their coordination instinctive, and their curiosity unrelenting. Varro realized that the first containment failure was only the beginning. Humans were not dangerous in the conventional sense. They were dangerous because they were alive, aware, and capable of learning faster than any system could anticipate. Every step they took in the chamber demonstrated this fact. The humans were still under observation, but Varro knew that containment had failed in a way that could not be reversed. It had shown the potential to surpass any measure of control. In the quiet of the observation deck, he understood that the humans' true power lay in their mind, and in their ability to adapt to any challenge, no matter how impossible it seemed. The report closed its section with one final observation. Humans do not merely survive adversity, they thrive under it, learning from every event, every failure, and every interaction. They are unpredictable, intelligent, and cooperative beyond any known species. Any assumptions of weakness were dangerously false. Varro looked at the humans below, noting their small movements, their coordination, and their subtle communication. They were simple in appearance, but complex in reality. The report had made the station aware of a truth that could not be ignored. Humans were not merely another species to study. They were a force that had already begun to change the observers themselves by demonstrating intelligence, adaptability, and cooperation in ways that could not be controlled. The aliens decided to change their approach. The humans had been subjected to strict containment, constant observation, and carefully controlled challenges. Some observers believed that perhaps kindness could create compliance. They provided better food, more comfortable quarters, and brief periods of freedom. Some staff thought it would calm the humans and make them easier to manage. Len, a medical aide, was assigned to care for the humans during this new phase. He was cautious, intelligent, and genuinely curious. He observed the humans carefully, noting every action and reaction. At first, the humans accepted the changes quietly. They ate when offered, rested when allowed, and seemed calm. The observers recorded this as a temporary success. Perhaps humans could be integrated safely, they thought, but the report warned otherwise. Len soon realized the truth. The humans interpreted the kindness not as control, but as opportunity. They were learning from every interaction. The food provided them energy to explore more, the freedom allowed them to understand the environment, and the observer's trust became a tool. One human, slightly older than the rest, seemed to study Len closely. The human moved around the quarters, observed patterns in the schedule, and noted how doors and locks functioned. When a minor door malfunction occurred, the human quickly found a way to open it without using tools, surprising Len. It was clear that they were testing boundaries, learning from trust, and using the environment to their advantage. Another human approached a small medical device and examined it quietly. Len watched, uncertain if he should intervene. The human understood how the device worked almost instantly and then moved on. No harm was done, but Len realized the humans were not only intelligent, they were observant, analytical, and learning rapidly. Observers noted increased efficiency in the humans' movements. When grouped, they adapted silently to challenges. When one encountered a problem, the others adjusted accordingly. Len saw humans protecting each other without instruction, covering for injuries or guiding each other past obstacles. It was instinctive. Cooperation was natural, and strategy emerged without teaching. During a simulated hazard test, humans were given the freedom to explore a room with obstacles and false threats. They analyzed, adapted, and coordinated silently. One human blocked a moving hazard while another used debris to create a bridge across a pit. The observers were stunned. The humans were solving problems collectively using available materials and understanding patterns faster than expected. Len began to worry. The humans were not subdued by kindness. They were empowered. Every small gesture of trust or comfort became a lesson. They learned which doors were easy to bypass, how to manipulate locks, and even subtle weaknesses in monitoring systems. The humans did not act aggressively, but they gathered information and used it to their advantage. A minor injury occurred. One human fell while crossing a small obstacle. Normally, this would cause panic or distraction. Instead, the group responded with precision. Some humans created a shield from surrounding objects to protect the injured one. Others moved to block observer paths, ensuring safety. Len realized that the humans could coordinate instinctively in crisis without communication beyond gestures and glances. Observers debated the outcome. Some argued that kindness had failed to pacify humans. Others claimed that they were being unfairly alarmed. Len knew the truth. The humans were learning faster than ever, growing stronger and using every opportunity to understand the station and its staff. An unusual incident occurred when Len inadvertently left a small security panel unlocked. A human approached, examined the controls, and then manipulated the panel to allow another human access to a restricted area. Len noticed, but by the time he could intervene, the humans were already back in their quarters. The movement had been silent, precise, and undetected by guards. It was clear they were exploiting trust and understanding systems beyond immediate observation. Len recorded his concerns in the report. Humans respond to kindness as opportunity. They learn social patterns, environmental systems, and staff behavior rapidly. Every trust gesture or relaxed rule strengthens their adaptability. Control is not achieved by gentleness. It becomes an experiment for them to learn from. The humans were also observed to play with problem solving. One created a makeshift tool to retrieve an item out of reach. Another used observation to understand how alarms and doors functioned, predicting when movements could occur without detection. They combined patience, observation, and ingenuity to achieve goals efficiently. A small group of humans was temporarily left alone with minimal restrictions. Observers expected confusion or slow adaptation. Instead, the humans explored methodically, solved minor problems, and communicated silently to coordinate actions. They reunited with the rest of the group faster than expected, demonstrating planning and strategy beyond any known species. Len watched one human repeatedly approach a complicated lock system. Each attempt failed initially. Then, the human paused, observed the mechanism, and successfully opened it. Another human copied the method, improving on it to speed the process. It was clear the humans learned not only from failure but from each other, silently sharing insights and improving collectively. The report detailed how humans viewed mercy and trust. When given kindness, they did not respond with submission. They responded with awareness, curiosity, and subtle manipulation. Every gesture of goodwill became an opportunity to test boundaries, to observe, and to learn. Len understood that the station's attempts to be humane had inadvertently trained the humans in observation, analysis, and coordination. By the end of the observation period, humans were moving more efficiently, solving problems faster, and coordinating more precisely than at the start. They had mastered environmental challenges, developed silent communication methods, and used kindness and trust to gain understanding. The observers had underestimated the impact of empowerment. A final note in the report captured Len's growing concern. Humans are not motivated by fear. They do not act out of submission. Instead, they adapt, cooperate, and learn rapidly. Acts of trust do not pacify them. They enhance their capacity to understand, manipulate, and coordinate. Len could not ignore the pattern. Every time the humans were challenged, restricted, or empowered, they grew stronger and more capable. The observers had unknowingly taught them strategy, coordination, and observation skills far beyond what the station anticipated. The humans continued their actions, quietly, testing the environment, learning from every interaction, and protecting each other instinctively. Len realized that containment, observation, or kindness could not suppress them. It could only accelerate their growth. The report ended with a chilling observation. Humans thrive not on fear or submission, but on opportunity, challenge, and cooperation. Trust and mercy become lessons, not control. Any attempt to underestimate or contain them is an error, a lesson they will quickly learn from. Len stepped back from his station, watching the humans move with quiet intelligence. They seemed calm, innocent, and curious, yet beneath the surface they were learning, observing, and preparing for possibilities the observers had not even imagined. The humans were growing stronger, not through aggression, but through adaptability, cooperation, and awareness. The observers understood, at last, that humans could not be controlled by kindness, force, or isolation. They were too clever, too aware, and too cooperative. The station's attempts to influence them had only revealed their true potential. Humans were unpredictable, intelligent, and capable beyond expectation. The humans continued to explore, interact, and adapt. Every day, every observation, and every challenge became a lesson. Len knew that the humans' real strength was already visible, silent, and unstoppable. They were learning from everything, and no measure, kind or harsh, could suppress the intelligence, adaptability, and coordination that defined them. The governing council gathered to discuss the humans. The debate was intense, the room filled with tension. Some members argued for erasure, claiming humans were too dangerous to remain. Others suggested releasing them back to their planet, believing that containment was costly and possibly unnecessary. The report detailed simulations of each option, but the results were troubling. Humans, once free, could reach the stars and challenge the galaxy. Erasure might not guarantee safety, for their adaptability could leave unknown consequences. Calm, a strategist with years of experience, spoke first. He had observed humans up close and understood their capacity to learn. He warned that humans had already changed the way the station operated. Their actions in containment had forced staff to adapt routines, adjust security, and rethink strategy. The humans were observing the observers, he suggested caution. Others disagreed, citing the potential for chaos if humans were released. Some council members argued that the humans' intelligence, adaptability, and cooperative nature made them unpredictable. They were unlike any species previously studied. Simulations predicted rapid evolution in thought and action. The humans would grow beyond immediate control. One member warned that their survival instincts combined with their learning ability made them a potential threat to the galaxy, even unintentionally. Despite the arguments, a vote was scheduled. The report noted that the humans had already begun to influence outcomes silently. Their actions during containment had been observed to subtly shift guard behavior, staff schedules, and even security protocols. The council realized that the humans' presence alone had created changes beyond their initial calculations. They were learning, adapting, and affecting the system without direct intervention. A test simulation was introduced for the vote. Council members monitored live human activity as part of the experiment. Humans moved calmly through their environment, responding to minor changes in rules and observing staff actions. They learned patterns quickly, applied strategies collectively, and avoided hazards with precision. Every action seemed deliberate, yet natural. Observers began to note that the humans' intelligence extended beyond reaction. It was predictive, proactive, and highly adaptive. Kelm presented his findings to the council. Humans learn from observation, cooperate instinctively, and adjust strategies rapidly. Their adaptability cannot be contained by conventional measures. Releasing them may introduce unknown consequences, but erasing them may not neutralize the potential threat. He emphasized that the humans' capacity to learn from every interaction made them a force unlike any other. The council debated long into the cycle. Some argued that humans could be trusted to remain peaceful if released, citing their tendency to cooperate and follow social rules. Others argued that humans' curiosity and adaptability made them uncontrollable once free. Each discussion highlighted that the human strength was not in weapons or aggression, but in their intelligence, observation, and social cohesion. During a break, Kelm reviewed live feeds from the humans' quarters. A human manipulated a simple control system to observe staff schedules. Another human moved objects to test environmental responses. No alarm was triggered, and no intervention was needed. It was subtle, nearly invisible, but highly effective. Kelm realized that the humans had already found ways to influence their environment beyond the observers' immediate awareness. Council members expressed concern that containment had inadvertently taught the humans skills beyond the original intent. Every challenge, every restriction, every act of trust had become a lesson for them. Humans thrived under challenge. They adapted, cooperated, and observed. The council debated whether they should continue experimentation or make a decision to end it. The vote approached. But the council recognized that the humans' intelligence and adaptability had surpassed initial expectations. Humans had learned to predict outcomes, manipulate environments, and coordinate actions silently. Every observation had become an experiment, every interaction a source of data for them to learn from. Kelm warned that any decision must consider the human's unpredictable nature and capacity for rapid learning. The report noted one critical observation. Humans do not require explicit teaching to develop strategy. They learn from failure, from success, from observation, and from one another. They can adjust collectively without verbal communication. The implications were clear. Containment and observation had accelerated their understanding and abilities, making them more capable than anyone had anticipated. When the vote finally occurred, members were divided. Some voted to erase humans, believing that the risk of their release was too high. Others voted to return them to their planet, citing ethical concerns and uncertainty about the outcomes of erasure. The final decision was postponed, leaving humans in temporary containment. The report warned that time was critical. Any delay increased the risk that humans would develop abilities beyond immediate control. Meanwhile, live observations continued. Humans adapted to temporary relaxation of rules, learned from minor errors in security, and coordinated silently to achieve goals. One human repaired a simple malfunction in the environmental system. Another observed guard patterns and adjusted behavior accordingly. The humans were not rebelling or escaping. They were learning, gathering information, and understanding the system beyond immediate observation. The council was confronted with a critical fact. Humans had already influenced the station's operations, affected staff behavior, and subtly shifted environmental management. Their presence alone had taught the staff new routines and adaptive behaviors. Kelm warned that the humans were actively observing and understanding, even without intention to escape. The report concluded the section with a warning. Humans' potential cannot be ignored. Their intelligence, adaptability, and social cohesion make them unpredictable. Containment accelerates learning, observation, and cooperation. Release could lead to rapid evolution beyond prediction. Erasure may not prevent influence beyond immediate systems. Every action taken by the Council must account for their ability to learn from everything. The humans continued their quiet actions in the background. They explored, observed, and tested the environment. Every small interaction became a source of knowledge. The Council watched in unease, realizing that the humans' intelligence was growing faster than containment measures could predict or control. Kelm documented the final observations before the vote. Humans are not driven solely by fear, aggression, or survival. They are motivated by curiosity, challenge, and social cooperation. They learn from opportunity, adapt to obstacles, and coordinate without instruction. Containment, observation, or mercy only enhances their capabilities. Decisions regarding humans require caution, foresight, and acknowledgement of their unparalleled adaptability. The Council adjourned, still divided, leaving humans in temporary containment. The report remained open, a warning to future staff. Humans were quiet, seemingly innocent, but highly capable. Every observation had increased their understanding. Every restriction had become a lesson. And every interaction had revealed that they were not ordinary, not weak, and not predictable. The humans moved through their quarters, unaware of the anxiety their presence had caused. They observed, adapted, and coordinated. They had no weapons, yet their intelligence made them formidable. Every step, every glance, every gesture became a learning opportunity. The report concluded that the human strength lay not in aggression, but in their mind, their social cohesion, and their relentless capacity to adapt and learn. Council members left with unease, understanding that containment was temporary at best. Humans were not dangerous in the traditional sense. They were dangerous because they were alive, intelligent, adaptable, and cooperative. And they were growing stronger with each passing cycle, learning from every action, every observation, and every moment of opportunity. The decision would not only affect the humans, but the entire galaxy, for their potential was vast and unknowable. The report ended with one final note. Observe, record, and respect their intelligence. Every test, every interaction, every restriction will be studied by them. Humans are not weak, and they are not to be underestimated. They learn from everything, adapt to everything, and cooperate beyond expectation. Any assumption of control is an illusion. The Council's decision may be delayed, but the humans had already begun shaping the outcome through their own awareness and actions. The final observation cycle began. The station had kept humans in temporary containment while the Council debated their fate. Everyone knew that the humans' intelligence and adaptability had surpassed expectations. No one underestimated them now. The report opened to the final section, detailing how humans had evolved in behavior, strategy, and cooperation over the last cycles. Vera, the lead observer, watched quietly. The humans moved freely in a controlled section of the station. exploring, examining, and interacting with their environment. Their movements were calm, precise, and coordinated. Vera had been trained to spot subtle changes in behavior. She noticed that the humans had developed methods of silent communication through gestures and eye contact. They were sharing information quickly, efficiently, and without error. One human approached a minor control console. The system was designed to be incomprehensible to non-staff species, yet the human studied it, touched buttons carefully, and triggered a simple function without guidance. And it was a minor action, but the observers recorded it as a major breakthrough. Humans could learn complex systems faster than previously believed. Another human tested the limits of a containment door. Instead of trying to break it or force it open, the human observed, calculated timing, and discovered a small method to bypass the sensor temporarily. No alarm was triggered. The human had done this not out of malice but curiosity. Yet, the result was a clear demonstration of strategy and understanding. Observers began to notice patterns in group behavior. Humans consistently helped each other when needed. They shared tools, assisted in problem-solving, and coordinated responses to environmental challenges. When one failed or stumbled, others adapted immediately. No species observed before had shown this level of instinctive cooperation combined with rapid learning. Vera recorded detailed notes. Humans are not simply reactive, they are proactive. They anticipate changes, adjust strategies, and communicate silently. They learn not only from direct experience, but from observation of others' successes and failures. Their ability to adapt grows exponentially with each cycle. A minor test was set up to observe individual decision-making under stress. One human was placed alone with limited resources and a task that seemed impossible. Observers expected slow progress or failure. Instead, the human analyzed the environment, tested different approaches, and discovered a solution faster than any protocol predicted. When the group was reunited, they adopted the method instantly, demonstrating rapid collective learning. Vera noted another critical point. Humans learn from kindness and trust just as effectively as from challenge and restriction. Providing resources, comfort, or freedom did not pacify them. It encouraged observation, problem-solving, and strategic thinking. Their minds absorbed every detail, and every opportunity became a lesson. Another test involved simulated hazards. Humans encountered obstacles, moving hazards, and challenges meant to simulate environmental stress. They did not panic, they did not flee irrationally. Instead, they observed, calculated, and acted. Each action was deliberate, and the group coordinated instinctively to achieve safety while maintaining efficiency. The observers realized that conventional fear responses were ineffective with humans. Vera watched one human manipulate a control panel, using observation of prior staff actions to predict a system response. Another human observed silently, learning the method, and refined it. Within moments, both humans had developed a strategy that improved efficiency and reduced risk. Their ability to learn from observation and implement solutions exceeded all previous predictions. The report included council debates about humans' release. Some argued that erasure would eliminate the threat. Others warned that humans' potential for learning and adaptation might make even erasure insufficient. The intelligence of humans could lead to indirect influence beyond containment. Every council member understood that delay increased the humans' awareness and capability. During a communication experiment, humans were observed interacting with newly introduced technology. The technology was designed to be complex, confusing, and unusable for non-staff species. The humans approached with curiosity, experimenting, testing, and quickly discovering functions. No instruction was provided, yet they solved tasks designed to challenge observation. Vera concluded that humans learned through experimentation, observation, and reasoning independent of direct teaching. The report emphasized an important observation. Humans' intelligence is augmented by cooperation. Individual problem-solving is effective, but when humans work as a group, adaptation is faster, solutions are better, and survival improves. Observers could not predict group behavior because humans continuously shared knowledge silently, refined strategies, and executed coordinated action instinctively. A final simulation involved partial relaxation of containment, providing the humans limited mobility throughout the section. Observers expected gradual exploration, but what occurred surprised everyone. Humans moved efficiently, testing environments, observing staff, predicting patterns, and learning systems at a remarkable rate. They were not reckless. They were methodical. They explored and tested, absorbed lessons, and improved strategies without alerting staff to the extent of their understanding. Vera noted the same conclusion repeatedly. Humans are not driven solely by fear, coercion, or reward. They are driven by curiosity, challenge, and social cooperation. They learn from opportunity, observation, and interaction. Their adaptability makes conventional containment methods ineffective over time. The final page of the report contained a warning from the senior observer. Humans have the potential to surpass understanding. They are unpredictable, intelligent, cooperative, and capable of learning from every interaction. Any attempt to control or limit them only accelerates their adaptation. They are not weak. They are not predictable. They are not to be underestimated. Vera watched humans moving through the observation section, quietly solving tasks, coordinating and observing. No aggression was present, yet the humans' capability was undeniable. Every action, every test, and every interaction had increased their knowledge and potential. As the final notes were recorded, Vera realized the gravity of the situation. Humans were not merely another species for observation. They had demonstrated intelligence, adaptability, and social cooperation far beyond expectation. Their minds were their strength, their ability to learn was their power, and their instinct to cooperate made them unpredictable and formidable. The report ended with a single line that captured the conclusion of all previous observations. Humans learn, adapt, and cooperate. They observe and influence their environment silently. Control is temporary. Delay strengthens them. Underestimation is dangerous. The humans are already capable, and their potential grows with each moment of observation. Outside the observation section, the humans continued to explore quietly, unaware of the significance of their actions. They touched objects, tested boundaries, communicated silently, and moved with purpose. The observers watched in awe and unease, understanding that containment had only revealed the humans' true nature. They were alive, intelligent, adaptable, and cooperative in ways that no system, no council, and no prediction could fully comprehend. The final observation cycle concluded with clarity. Humans were not merely a species to study. They were a force of intelligence and adaptability. Every interaction had taught them something new. Every challenge had made them stronger. Every moment of freedom had increased their understanding. Observers knew that humans, once released, would continue to learn, adapt, and evolve at a pace beyond prediction. They were a species that could not be contained, underestimated, or ignored.